Welcome back. It's time for sport, and here's Jo.
Nastasia, thank you. Lionel Messi has confirmed that this year's World Cup will be his last. The 35-year-old made the announcement on the same day that the country's national airline unveiled a plane that will take fans to the tournament in Qatar. Messi will play in his 5th World Cup when Argentina opens their campaign on November the 22nd against Saudi Arabia. Messi's only other major international tournament trophy was the Copa America last year.
Many were already speculating that Leo Messi was going to not be with Argentina after the 2022 World Cup. He had also speculated in a couple of interviews, both exclusive interviews as well as post-match interviews that he had given during World Cup qualifying play. So there was a possibility maybe that he was going to have a chance at 39 to end up in the World Cup in North America in 2026. But of course, he started quashing that. He mentioned the fact that, yeah, he does feel older. He does feel that this era, at least for him, is coming to a close. But at least from a positive standpoint, he feels that the preseason and the work he's been able to put in during this recent offseason has helped him to be sharp going into Qatar. You do have a team that is coming into with a 35-match unbeaten streak into the World Cup. You have not only 35 matches, but matches in which they've been able to dominate at the competitive level, going back to World Cup qualifying play, the final of the Copa America. They haven't lost in 3 years. And more importantly, you start looking at a team that has a philosophy and a way of playing that each and every one of the players that will be called up understand and know the respective roles.
Arsenal have followed up their impressive victory over arch-rivals Tottenham by winning in the Europa League. The leaders of England's top division thrashed Bodo Glimt of Norway 3-0 at Emirates Stadium. The pick of the goals being the last, with Fabio Vieira finishing off a great move crafted by Gabriel Jesus. The result means the Gunners sit top of their group. Manchester United have bounced back from the 6-3 battering they got from Man City. Marcus Rashford scored twice as they came from behind to beat Cypriot team Omonia in the Europa League. United sit second in their group.
I don't know if it was a shot or an assist, but he's got the latter anyway.
The NBA has expanded their global footprint by playing a game in the United Arab Emirates for the very first time. A sellout crowd of around 18,000 fans in Abu Dhabi watched the Atlanta Hawks defeat the Milwaukee Bucks in a preseason encounter. Superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo top scored for the Bucks with 19, while DeJounte Murray starred for the Hawks with 25 points. The NBA's push to increase their worldwide prominence also included games in Japan last week. Atlanta and Milwaukee meet again in Abu Dhabi on Saturday.
An unbelievable environment to play a NBA preseason game. I know our team has had an amazing time here in Abu Dhabi so far, and I think between Abu Dhabi fans and the NBA putting together such a great event, giving us an opportunity to experience the love of basketball here. And I think just continue to grow the game globally is really cool to be a part of. So I know the Bucks organization, our team is really happy.
The stage is set for Max Verstappen to clinch this year's Formula One World Championship in Japan on Sunday. The Dutchman leads the standings by 104 points from Ferrari's Charles Leclerc and could make it back-to-back titles if he wins the race in Suzuka and sets the fastest lap. But he found the wet conditions tough during Friday practice, with his Red Bull leaving the track at one point before he set the 3rd fastest time.
It's always nice to be here. Luckily, it wasn't complete disaster with the weather. Like, at least we could get around and do a little bit of stuff. But yeah, in terms of like knowing where you are with pace in the wet is always a bit tricky.
A bit tricky too for Haas driver Mick Schumacher, who ended up in the wall.
I just had a huge aquaplaning. Wow.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Mercedes' George Russell and Lewis Hamilton ended up setting the pace on Friday. And the wet weather didn't dampen enthusiasm from the fans who were there to see the first Grand Prix held in Japan for 3 years because of the coronavirus pandemic. In the NFL, Tom Brady has confirmed he's fit to play on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. The Tampa Bay quarterback suffered a shoulder injury last week, but the 45-year-old has played down the seriousness. The Buccaneers have 2 wins from 4 games this season and are still chasing their first home victory.
Well, I think you always got to try to stay balanced, over the course of the season. And a few games we've done a better job We just have been getting behind quite a bit, and it's been frustrating that we haven't performed very well early in order to keep us, more two-dimensional. But when you're one-dimensional, it's tough. We're going to try to work at all those things to make us a better football team for sure.
In Thursday night football, the Indianapolis Colts edged out the Denver Broncos 12-9 with field goals the only scoring plays. The Colts were losing with only seconds to play before forcing the game into overtime. New Denver quarterback Russell Wilson was again booed by Broncos fans following another lackluster performance. And we finish with some golf from the LIV event in Bangkok, where little-known Spaniard Eugenio Lopez Chacarras shares a one-shot lead with Englishman Richard Bland and South African Brandon Grace after the opening round. This event in Thailand is the first of two being played in Asia, with Jeddah in Saudi Arabia hosting a tournament next week. All right, that is all your sport for now. More with Peter later. Nastasia.
Thanks so much, Jo. Well, the London Film Festival is underway. And this year, it's an immersive experience. Filmmakers are experimenting with new technologies to create a different form of storytelling. The works touch on climate collapse, war and dance, as Charlie Angela found out.
Never has a quarry been so captivating. Nor a recycling centre. Two locations featured in Frame Rate, a film created from thousands of 3D time-lapse scans of British landscapes. This is the expanded strand of London's BFI Film Festival. Inside disused railway arches, audiences are experiencing the many ways there are to tell a tale visually using cutting-edge technology.
Pulse of the Earth is about giving people an insight into the way that the world is changing in a way that they've never been able to see before. So you glimpse real-world sites in this room, but you see them change over a time period of a year or sometimes longer. And they're captured through the eyes, not of traditional cameras, but of laser scanners.
Most pieces use virtual reality headsets. Others are augmented reality, where, through their phone, visitors see images overlaid onto the real world. Climate collapse is a recurrent theme. Planet City builds a utopian future where you can peer inside.
What's special about immersive technology is that you're in the center of the experience. You're not in front of the screen anymore, in front of the stage. You really are part of the experience. And I think this is why filmmakers, artists, creators are drawn to this medium. And they're trying to push the boundaries of how we tell stories, of how we engage with our audiences. And this is so exciting.
Other works touch on war and conflict, putting the viewer literally in the trenches.
I wanted to make a work that explores an aspect of warfare that is usually not in the media and also not in the imagination of people of war, namely the endless waiting.
On the Morning You Wake uses a documentary style to put you inside the panicked minds of Hawaiians in 2018 when they all received a text alerting them to an imminent nuclear attack.
My phone saying there was a ballistic missile inbound. Yeah, we just got it too.
In Apparatus Ludens, artificial intelligence harvests your online data to create a rather creepy personal landscape of photographs that questions who owns your digital footprint. This is a space where filmmakers can really push the boundaries of storytelling. And some of these mediums can move you in a way that traditional film can't. But while these technologies are evolving at speed, the distribution has some catching up to do. Charlie Angela, Al Jazeera, London.
Well, remember, you can always find much more on our website, including all the latest on the war in Ukraine. The address for that is aljazeera.com. Well, that's it from me, Nastasia Tay, for this news hour. But don't go away. I'll be back in just a couple of minutes with more of the day's news. Do stay with us.
It's time for a memorable holiday with Pegasus. It's time for Turkey. Set sail for new discoveries. Enjoy. Have new experiences. Hit the shops. Make wonderful memories. Travel to Turkey with Pegasus and with direct flights to Istanbul and Trabzon. Book your ticket now for a memorable holiday. See FlyPGS for our best prices.
Jump into the stream where no topic is off the table. I don't think that anybody should be born into privilege to rule over us. At the end of the day, we are the subjects of the royal family.
So that's one person's opinion, but what's yours?
Amplify your voice.
The judicial system in Mexico is incredibly weak, and it is not just corruption.
Where a global audience becomes a global community.
The scariest part of this moment in my country is this push for more weapons.
The Stream on Al Jazeera.
We are all responsible. Even people far away are also helping with the environment problems in the Amazon because they are consumers.
I teach kids about the threats that our oceans are facing today.
I've been working in earnest, trying to find ways to get this language out to the kids.
What do we do as the ocean warriors? And what are you going to do to keep our oceans clean?
It's our language that keeps Arapaho blood going.
Women rights groups say that they have won several battles in their fight for equality in Latin America, and those protesting say that protecting women remains a challenge in the region.
My body, my choice. I will not stop being pro-life.
I want freedom. We don't have freedom in this country.
These evacuees now face a 3-day journey to a shelter in western Ukraine.
Someone destroys our country and someone needs to rebuild.
This year's Nobel Peace Prize is awarded to a jailed Belarusian activist and 2 human rights organizations, one Russian, one Ukrainian.
They have made an outstanding effort to document war crimes, human rights abuses, and the abuse of power.
Hello there, I'm Nastasia Tay, and this is Al Jazeera live from Doha. Also coming up, Thailand's Prime Minister visits the childcare centre that was attacked on Thursday in one of the nation's worst mass killings. Should gas prices be capped? European Union leaders hold talks on how to contain soaring energy costs. We'll be live from Prague. Well, this year's Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to a jailed Belarusian rights activist, the Russian rights group Memorial, and the Ukrainian Center for Civil Liberties. Ales Bialyatsky has been leading a nearly 30-year campaign now for the development of civil society in Belarus, but he's been in prison since last year on tax evasion charges. Memorial is one of Russia's oldest human rights organizations. It was set up to uncover the abuses that were carried out in Soviet-era prisons. Russia shut that group down last year. And Ukraine's Center for Civil Liberties was established in 2007 to promote human rights.
They have for many years promoted the right to criticize power and protect the fundamental rights of citizens. They have made an outstanding effort to document war crimes, human rights abuses, and the abuse of power. Together, they demonstrate the significance of civil society for peace and democracy.
Jonah Hull has more now from Oslo, where the announcement was made.
Ales Bialyatsky, he, a human rights campaigner in Belarus, one of the initiators of the democracy movement in that country in the mid-1980s. He founded a group called Vyasna, or Spring, in 1996, documenting human rights abuses. He is currently in prison in Belarus. Mrs. Rice-Anderson called on the government in Belarus to allow him to be released, to come here in December to receive his award. And as well as him, the Russian human rights organization Memorial, founded in Soviet times to document abuses of people under the communist regime. It has gone on to document abuses in Russia, modern-day Russia, through the Chechen wars, and of course, more recently, prisoners of conscience and political prisoners in jail in Russia. They've been shut down by Vladimir Putin, their activists refusing to give up. And finally, in Kiev in Ukraine, the Center for Civil Liberties, founded in order to document war crimes and try to work with international partners to deliver accountability. The three in the citation, through their consistent efforts in favor of humanist values, anti-militarism and the principles of law, this year's laureates have revitalized and honored Alfred Nobel's vision of peace and fraternity between nations.
Well, Belarus's opposition leader, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, has welcomed the decision from the Nobel Committee. She says it puts Belarusian human rights firmly in the spotlight.
There are thousands of other people who are detained because of their political views, and I hope that it will raise awareness about our country, and practical steps will have been done, to release all of those people who sacrificed with their freedom for our independence, for our human rights, democratic values in Belarus.
Well, the award came as a surprise, though, for Ukraine's Center for Civil Liberties.
We didn't know about this. None of our staff did. I didn't know either. This was a shock for me. We probably haven't realised it fully, but I have to say that this prize gives us inspiration and an understanding that the direction of our work is important for building peace, democracy and freedom in Ukraine. It also gives an understanding that we still have a lot of work ahead.
Well, Hoda Abdulhamid is in Dnipro in Ukraine and has some background on that group.
It is an organization that was created back in 2007, and at the beginning, really, their role was more or less like any human rights organization, which is monitoring law enforcement agencies, the judicial, local authorities, to make sure that they were in compliance with human rights. Now, that changed back in 2014 during the Euromaidan protests that led to the conflict we are in at the moment. They started investigating crimes committed. More than 100 people had died when the former president, or the then president, Viktor Yanukovych, was ousted and fled to Russia. And since they have been also investigating political persecution, for example, in Crimea, the annexed peninsula that was annexed back in 2014. They also have been investigating war crimes in the Donbass, and that actually they stepped up all of that since this conflict started back in February. The first people in, just after the soldiers, are these war crime investigators, are these NGOs who are helping in building the case, who are also talking and interviewing